I'd like to take a moment to share with you a great conversation that I had with a new client. It's my hope that what I shared with this woman is a help to you the way it was to her. She is 41 years old. She has been married for just under 3 years to a man that she has known for 10 years. And she said to me, Doc, I'm coming to you. I have a therapist. I have seen everybody under the sun. And nobody's really been able to get me to a straight line answer on what I should do about my marriage. I said, what's going on with your marriage? She said, well, my husband and I have been married for less than 3 years. And frankly, he checks all the boxes. He checks all of the boxes. He's everything in many ways of what you would want from a husband. I said, what are those ways? She said, well, he has a job. He is very caring towards her. He is also a person who is very considerate. He really gets out of her way and really allows her to be herself. I said, okay, then what's the problem? She said, well, I feel bad because there's no connection between us. I said, in what regard? She said, well, it's going to sound like I'm being contradictory. She said that, but while he is a nice guy, there are other parts of him that while he checks a lot of boxes, there are other parts of him that just leaves me wanting more. I said, what do you mean? She said, for starters, I feel like I'm his mom and not his wife. I said, in what regard? She said, well, I manage the finances for the house. And she said, to give you some context, Doc, I was raised by a very strong father and a very feminine mom. And they have been married over 50 years. And they are like a dream couple. I said, in what regard? She said, well, Dad is a strong man. And growing up as a little girl, not an only child, she's the youngest, I think, of 3 children. She said, growing up as a little girl, I really felt protected and safe around him. And watching how he took care of my mom and took care of the house. And my mom, she worked, but she also really nurtured my father. She said it was just the perfect chemistry between them. And when I met my husband, he showed some potential for that. But I think I really just liked him as a nice guy, and I overlooked the signs. I said, well, what were more of those signs? She said, well, number one, I feel like I'm his mom and not his wife. I pick up after him. He's a slob. He doesn't pick up after himself. I have to remind him of everything, when his appointments are, when we have to do this, when we have to do that, when we have to be certain places. I said, do you all have kids? She said, thankfully not. She said, because we had the kid conversation within the first year of the marriage, but I thought to myself, I already have a child. I said, who are you talking about, your husband? She said, absolutely. And I said to him, I don't think we're ready for that yet. And he was disappointed, but he in essence said, well, whatever I want, then that's what it'll be. And she said, Doc, I know that sounds nice to a lot of women who want a man that will be at their beck and call and do everything that she tells them to do. She said, but Doc, I'm acting like a man and I want to be a woman. I laughed. She laughed. She was so animated, such a funny lady, but a sweet woman. She said, but he's passive. He's not strong like my father. He calls his mom like 7 times a day. I said, 7 for real? She said, that's the low end. I said, and what do they talk about? She said, nothing. He literally calls her. Hey, Mom, just checking in. Hey, Mom, what are you up to today, Mom? She said, Doc, he talks to his mama more than he talks to me. I said, interesting. I said, what else? She said, well, he can't handle our finances. She said, he makes a decent living. I make more than him, but that's not a big deal. I don't care about that. She said, but Doc, I don't mind managing the finances if that's what he wants me to do, but he absolutely can't manage a thing, to the point where he doesn't know what comes to his check, what goes out of his check. He doesn't know what house bills are needed. He doesn't know what things not only financially need to be managed around the house, he doesn't know the physical things that need to be managed around the house. And so I'm working all day. He's working all day. I come home, I notice things that need to be repaired. He hasn't even paid attention to those things. Then I not only have to notice them, I have to bring them to his attention. Then I have to call people to come in to make the repairs. And then I have to manage the finances that goes in. She said, Doc, I could spend all of his money every week and he would never know it. Say he can't handle our finances. He has no motivation or drive. He absolutely lays around all day when he comes home from work. She said, Doc, I can't remember the last time he created something or started something new. She said, he's a nice guy, but it's just not enough. And I really don't know what to do. I said, have you ever cheated on him? She said, no, sir, I haven't. She said, but I will be honest with you. She said, I have a man that I dated about 10 years ago that recently was married. And I was heartbroken. I said, were you married when he got married? She said, yes, sir. I said, why were you heartbroken? She said, because I felt like that was my soulmate. When I looked at him and I looked at my husband, I like my husband, but I just don't feel the attraction and the chemistry there. I said, ma'am, let me explain something to you. I said, masculine and feminine energy is a very real thing, and it's a powerful thing when it's taught the right way. I said, but I want to be very clear here. I said, a man can check all the boxes in the world, but when he acts like a woman, attraction absolutely leaves, especially for a feminine woman. And I'm not going to get into what a feminine woman is on this video. She and I talked about that, obviously. But she couldn't agree more. She said, Doc, I can't put my finger on it. It's just like, I don't feel a sense of attraction or chemistry at all, but he's a nice guy. But it's these other things, when I put them all together, I literally feel like I babysit every day. I said, do you all have a physical relationship? How is that? She said, not at all. We sleep in 2 different bedrooms. I said, within the first 3 years? She said, yes, sir. She said, he asked me recently, why aren't we physically engaged anymore? Do you not find me physically attractive? I said, what did you say? She said, I lied to her. She said, I said to him, I just work a lot. I'm tired. I said, you didn't tell him the truth? She said, no, sir. I said, why not? She says, because he's too soft to handle it. I said, interesting. I said, ma'am, I want to say to you that the best gift you could give to your husband, who has a birthday coming up, by the way, is an appointment with someone who's going to tell him the truth. I said, the fact of the matter is, self-awareness is all about being honest and dealing with the consequences. And he needs to honestly look at himself and realize that he's not acting in his masculine frame. He's being very passive with a very feminine woman. And being in your masculine frame doesn't make you rude. It doesn't make you egotistical. It doesn't make you a chauvinist. But it does come with certain qualities and traits like being certain and sure and confident and decisive and proactive. And he's not displaying any of those things. She said, Doc, I could not agree more. I said, but further, let me say something to you. I said, you also need to operate in self-awareness and have a very honest conversation with your husband. I said, because it's a good chance you did not marry who you love. You married who you like. And a lot of people settle for who they like instead of selling out for who they love. That selling out might mean you need to wait on the perfect match. You need to wait on a better match. You need to wait on a match with someone you not only like and enjoy being around, but someone that your heart and your stomach flutters for. I said, especially in this day and age where people are rushing to get married so much that they are compromising who they love for who they like. I said, now, if this other guy you felt like was your soulmate is going on, there's nothing you can do about that. I said, but that did not mean you should have started dating a guy that you just liked and eventually marrying him when your heart had soulmate ties to someone else. I said, let this be proof. We don't marry who we love or who we like. We need to marry who we love. And you did not do that. I said, and furthermore, you're not his wife, you're his mama. And the only way you're going to correct attraction is by having an honest conversation with your husband. Proud to say that they've set up a group conversation with us 3 to talk. It's going to be an interesting conversation because it's going to be grounded in truth. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes down to attraction, if you marry who you like instead of who you love, don't be shocked when attraction leaves. I hope this made sense. If it did, type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then remember, you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you. What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zeb. Listen, I've been dying to make this announcement for a very long time now, and I'm pleased to say that Inspire Nation has officially launched. Yes, we finally got a Facebook and YouTube community group where we're going to have exclusive content, exclusive shorts, exclusive discussion prompts, where we're going to engage with other people literally around the world who are on the same healing journey that we're on. I need you to go find these pages right now on Facebook and YouTube. Inspire Nation, follow the page, join the group, introduce yourself, and be prepared to link up with literally thousands of people around the world who are on the same healing journey, who are looking for the same resources, and who want to also be surrounded with other like-minded individuals who are growing in the same direction as you are. I'm so excited about this because it's the beginning of some great things I can't talk about right now. Listen, you got two jobs. One, be better today than what you were yesterday. And two, don't forget what I told you.